Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you both for your service and what you're doing to protect our country. But I have a question building on some previous questions about why we are not targeting known ISIS assets. For instance, everyone knows where the headquarters of ISIS is in Raqqa, Syria, I believe, a large multi-story building. We know that there are convoys of oil, crude oil, being taken to Turkey, sold to raise money for ISIS. That's a kind of a lifeline for money as far as I look at it. So, I can't imagine that it's a military decision to not take out known military assets, so there must be a political reason. So, Mr. Carter, what is the political reason, or why are we not targeting known ISIS assets if the intention is to degrade and destroy ISIS, as the President has said?
Congressman, the target types that you described are authorized. Leadership targets, indeed. Fuel, which is partly used to finance this movement. Legitimate target, we do strike those targets. I think the only limitation, and I'll let the Chairman elaborate on this, that the people managing the coalition air campaign have, and this is a coalition judgment, not just a U.S. judgment, is to try to avoid civilian casualties. And that is for obvious humanitarian reasons, and also because it's not going to help what we're ultimately trying to do, which is get ISIL expelled.
So no targets are you're saying no targets are hands off?
No, the categories you named are absolutely hands on, and we have struck targets we need to strike targets like that. So that's definitely part of the air campaign. Let me ask the Chairman if he had anything to add.
I'll tell you, sir, the Commander CENTCOM, who holds the authority for strike decisions and the establishment of collateral damage estimates within the ROE, he has the authority. Nothing that happens in Washington, D.C. is limiting him from the use of the, by the way, 397 strike aircraft and 1,600 pilots who are flying these missions over Iraq and Syria every day. It's really a matter of ensuring that the targets we hit are the targets we intend, because to do otherwise would actually further complicate this and make it an almost impossible situation to sort out.
Okay. And if I can switch gears to Iran, they come into our discussion. I know it's the Middle East we're talking about, but Iran is part of this. Recently, Ali Heinonen of the IAEA spoke to some congressmen and said, and he knows more about Iran and nuclear negotiations than anyone in the world. He said you have to have two things for a deal to work, or Iran will get a nuclear weapon. That there be able to be unannounced inspections, by us or our designee, and that those have to be able to go any place, including military installations. Without those two elements, a deal is simply not going to work. Would you two agree with his assessment or not?
I certainly think that a good deal, and I'll go back to what the President said, which is absolutely true, which is no deal is better than a bad deal, but a good deal has to be verifiable. I want to add that with respect to Iran, you raised the question, and as I said, Iran is up with ISIL are the two big challenges to the stability of the Middle East and to U.S. interests associated with the Middle East. And our role in the nuclear negotiations is we're not part of the negotiations per se. We don't sit at the table. I have the responsibility to make sure that the military option is real, and believe me, we work on that and to make that real. Second, we have the responsibility to have the posture in the region that we do to check Iranian influence, and then last, we're very committed to the defense of Israel. So we have a big role in this picture in defense. It's not part of the negotiation, but it's a very, very big role, and we take it very seriously.
The only thing I'd add, Congressman, is as I've had these discussions with regional partners and most recently my Israeli counterpart, if there's a deal, I've got work to do with them. And if there's not a deal, I've got work to do with them, and we're committed to doing that work.
Thank you both.
Ms. Tsongas.